Hey guys, and welcome back for another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cute box pouch. This is different than the ones that I've made in the past. As you can see, the zipper is only at the top. I thought this would be a great gift for Father's Day, for toiletries, travel essentials, and it looks really sharp when you make it in a vinyl or a cork. So of course, all the measurements will be over at the blog post, which will be linked below, as well as the information icon. I do have 3 different sizes for you. So the taller version, the longer version, and then a smaller version. I'll be making mine out of cotton, but like you saw before, the vinyl looks really nice and it would look beautiful in a cork fabric as well. So this is a very easy pattern. You only need to know the measurement of your square, but if you want to cut it out in some cardstock and create a template, that is also really helpful. And I like to take my template and actually trace it out onto my interfacing, and then I'm going to iron my interfacing onto my fabric, and then I'll just cut out the pattern straight from the interfacing. So I'm just inserting a clip of me creating my vinyl pouch, and because this has such right angles, it's really difficult to cut out with a rotary cutter. So you can just take that template, draw it right onto the back of your vinyl or your cork, and then just cut that out very easily. So that's what I did with my interfacing. I just traced it out onto my interfacing, and then I'm just going to iron it onto the back of my outer fabric. I am using a fusible fleece, but if you want to use a medium weight, that would work perfect also. You want it to be a little stiff just so that it can hold some stability once your bag is created. And then I'm just going to cut out all those notches. And you're going to need 4 pieces, so 2 for the outer and 2 for the lining. And during this tutorial, you will notice that I am having a battle with the threads. This navy fabric just loves to hold on to lint and thread, and I do not enjoy it at all. So I have my zipper, and it needs to measure the length of one of those short sides. And I will install that. So I'm taking my outer fabric, laying it with the right sides facing up, and then I'll put my zipper on top with the zipper pull down onto the short little notched out area. Then I will take my lining fabric and I will line that up. If your lining fabric has a right side, then you want to make sure that the fabrics are right sides together. And we'll just sew down the edge of that zipper. I'm using a zipper foot. If you don't know anything about a zipper foot, I'll leave a tutorial in the right hand corner of this video so you can learn all about this handy foot. And then I just flip my fabric with the right sides out, pulling it nice and tight, and then just doing a top stitch right along that edge. Next, we're going to do the other side. So we're going to get the other outer fabric, place that with the right sides facing the zipper pull, and then we will take the lining and put that on the other side. We're going to line up those raw edges, and again, we will do a seam along that edge. And then again, we will flip our fabric with the right sides out and do a top stitch. It's really important to do top stitches, not only because it looks more decorative, but it also stops your fabric from getting stuck in the zipper teeth when you go to open and close your bag. So now I'm just going to take a piece of fabric that measures about 2.5 inches wide by 4 inches in length, and I'm going to create those little tabs. For this particular pouch, you're going to need those little tabs so that it helps you open and close your bag. So I'm just going to fold it in this way, and then I'll just do a top stitch along both sides to create a little strap. If you're new to making straps, I do have a video tutorial all about making different types of straps. I can also leave that in the information icon. Okay, so this is how it should look. So now we're going to take the right sides of our outer fabric and put those together, and then we'll tuck down the lining of the bag and put those with the right sides together. So when you sew this, you're only going to be sewing sort of the notched out parts. So we'll sew down both sides. We'll sew down the bottom of the outer fabric, and then we will start sewing about 1.5 inches on both sides of the lining fabric. And that's because we want to leave a hole at the bottom so that we can turn our bag right sides out later on. So I'm just going to go ahead and clip everything all into place. So I'm just going to sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to sew down the side of the outer fabric and the bottom of the outer fabric. So we're leaving those notches exposed for the next step. Back up the other side. And then I didn't actually press record, so you don't see me doing the other side, but there's the other side there. So now we're going to take our notches and we're going to open them up. As you can see, it's a struggle. And we're just going to line up those seams. We'll just put a pin in it to keep it in place. And we're going to do the other 3 corners the same way. Now you have to be very precise with doing this step. You want to make sure that your seams are lined up perfectly, because when you do when you do flip your bag, it's going to be more apparent if your bag isn't perfect, especially on the outer fabric part here. And then we're going to do that with the last notches, which are right near the zipper. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to leave it in full time so that you can see the struggle. But just know that, you know, I have been sewing for a long time, but it is still a struggle for me when I do things. So it definitely does not come natural. But once you've done this a few times, then it's not as I don't know. It's not as much of a struggle, I guess. But it just depends on the material you're using too. So basically for this notch, I'm going to do what I did with the other notches by lining up the seams. So lining up the seam of the outer fabric and the seam of the lining fabric, but there is a zipper in between. So you're basically going to line up those seams with the zipper teeth. And it is easier to just sort of clip as you go. So I'm just going to clip the one side and then I'll clip the other side. And if you're wondering what clips I use, I will have that over at the blog post also. And then I'm going to take that little strip of fabric that we had earlier, and this is where I'm going to cut it down to size. I'm going to cut it in half, so I'm going to have 2-inch pieces, so I'll use half of it here and then half of it on the other side of the bag. And I'm just going to fold that in half and slip it into, like, onto the zipper against the outer fabric. So just slip the loop in, making sure that the raw edges of that little loop is sticking out. And it is a little fiddly, so you want to make sure that your, everything is all nicely lined up. That little tab there, it does like to shift, so if you want to pin it in place or clip it in place, just to keep it all nice and even, take your time, don't rush. Okay, and then we're just going to sew across that. So I just did a quick show of me doing the other side. For that side, because it has the zipper pull, you want to make sure that you open that zipper, push it in nice and deep so that it's out of the way and you don't hit it with your machine. And then when you go to flip your bag, it'll be a lot easier to flip it because your zipper will be opened, a good amount. So I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on all 6 of those notches. And of course, it might be a little tough getting over your tab depending on the fabric. When I used my vinyl, it was a little tricky, so I did use a stronger needle. I used a leather needle for that portion. And then I just did a few passes over that tab because sometimes your stitches can pull a little, and I don't have the best machine. I do have a beginner style machine, so it doesn't love, thick fabrics. So I just did a few passes over that tab just to make sure that it was nice and secured and all the stitches were nice and tight. Okay, so this is how it's going to look after that. So we will just snip off all of our excess zipper, and then we can flip it with the right size out using that hole that we left in the lining. I really love this pouch. It's so easy, and you know, at first it might seem a little bit intimidating, but once you've done it a few times, it is truly very easy. And I love that there's absolutely no raw edges. Sometimes it's hard to find box pouch tutorials that have no raw edges, and so this one is really easy to make. So I'm just going to flip the bag and poke out all of my corners, and then you're just going to take that lining out and you're going to sew up that hole that we left for turning. So you're just going to take it out and then pull on the sides. The little raw edges will kind of roll in, and then we'll just do a quick top stitch. It's probably best to use a matching thread just so that you can't see it, but for tutorial reasons I just went ahead and did white stitches onto that navy fabric, but I did that off camera. So after that I just stuck it back in, and then I'm going to iron up the edges to make it more of a boxy shape. If you're using a stiffer fabric such as cork or vinyl, you're not gonna obviously need to do that, but if you want to do that for your cotton bags, then I would definitely do that. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you do decide to make these, we would love to see them. So definitely join the Facebook group, which will be linked below, as well as Instagram. You can hashtag me. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye guys.